After the pathology, we will see today the diagnosis and investigation as well as how you will manage the case of fibromyalgia. See, this is the tumor which is growing in the substance of uterine wall. This is the muscles and this is the whole tumor. And this is nothing but the interstitial fibromyoma of uterus. This a single sessile tumor, it is a submucous variety of fibromyoma of uterus. Typical histopathology of fibroid, we can see various muscles, spindle cells admixed with the bands of fibers. This is the typical microscopic appearance of the fibromyoma of uterus. Now, there are certain secondary changes. See, this is the hyaline degeneration. It is the necrosis of the tumor areas. This is known as a hyalinization of the fibromyoma of uterus. This hyaline degeneration is very common in perimenopausal age group of the women. Next is cystic. Before that, we will see risk factors. The age. Here, the age incidence, it is still on the set of menopause. Endogenous, again, how it is exactly seen, endogenous hormonal factors in early menarche, in late menopause, again a hyperestrogenic state it is, and increased expression and responsiveness of the progesterone receptors A and B. This is the risk of getting the fibromyalgia. Then family history. Most of the tumor are seen as having a hereditary tendency, maybe it in first degree relative, 3 to 5 times more risk of developing fibroids, say sister, mother, paternal, aunt. Then it is seen that black women, African women get more compared to white. Then risk of fibroid is increased in excess weight, that is 10 kg increase in body weight. It increases the bioavailability of estrogen, which we have already discussed in our previous lecture. Diet, which is increasing the calories, is again increasing. Rather, we should take a vegetable and green leafy diet is to be advised to avoid the risk of getting fibromyalgia. Another is exercise. If doing good exercise, regular exercise is helpful, and those who are doing less exercise are more having risk. Then OCS is definitely having no relationship. ERT, this is the estrogen replacement therapy. Variable reports are seen. Some shows no increase, some shows minimal, some gets more increase when progesterone were added. This is the treatment options where the change pattern is seen due to estrogen replacement therapy. Then pregnancy. Pre-existing fibroids again may enlarge during pregnancy. The red degeneration is another important secondary change which is seen during pregnancy as well as in purpura. Actually, there is the patchy red areas are seen on the tumor. These blood vessels are slowed off and collection of blood is there. This tumor becomes very soft. Actually, fibromyalgia is firm in consistency. But in red degeneration or in cases of sarcomatous change, the feel of lump is soft. So increased parity is associated with lower incidence of fibroid, but if it is occurring with pregnancy, then there is a chance of getting red degeneration. Smoking, it decreased by decreased conversion of androgen to estrogen. It doesn't mean that anyone should smoke, but it is the thing that the aromatase enzyme and these estrogen levels are decreased if a woman is having a smoking. So SHBG, these serum sex hormone binding globulin levels are reduced. Tissue injury may also have an incidence of probably increased local production of tissue growth factors. These were all risk factors. Now coming to the clinical presentations, majority of the fibromyalgia are asymptomatic. Means usually they are detected if a woman is coming to us for infertility treatment. So on examination, it is found that she is having asymptomatic presentation of fibroid, maybe less than 4 centimeter, or even uterus size may be more than 12, means corresponding to first trimester pregnancy in 50% of the cases. Many women are coming for treatments for abnormal uterine bleeding. They may come with the symptoms of menorrhagia. More than 60% cases comes with excessive blood loss, which may be in gushing form. She may require more pads or tampons on the day of heaviest blood loss. So menorrhagia, metrorrhagia may be presented in cases of infected or ulcerated fibroid polyp. So this is all about when fibroid is producing symptom. Next important is pain. If a woman gives you history of recent dysmenorrhea, which she was not having from the puberty, it is called as congestive dysmenorrhea, may be due to fibroid. So dysmenorrhea is a slight discomfort. It may vary from discomfort to colicky pain, severe colicky pain. She may come with a low backache. Now, the degenerated or torsion of fibroid may cause acute abdominal pain. This is again a presentation of acute appendicitis or ectopic in a married or various salpingitis. Like, so we have to rule it out by proper diagnosis, examination and investigation. Some women may come with the pressure symptoms, that is increased uterine volume due to fibroid may cause pressure and obstructive effect on urinary tract. So she may come with nocturia, frequent urination at night. Secondary symptoms we can see anemia. Due to chronic blood loss, she may have a symptoms of anemia like debility, anorexia and very easy fatigued on. So her capacity of work will be decreasing. So symptoms of anemia and signs should be looked always. Some patients rarely develop polycythemia. This is excessive amount of RBCs in the blood test due to erythropoietin production. And this is most important. Many women come with only pelvic abdominal swelling, a lump arising from the pelvis. So she may have an experience of heaviness in her abdomen. These were all about the clinical presentation of a woman or a girl. Natural history of fibroids. Most fibroids grow at the rate of 9% growth in 12 months, more depending upon the growth factors rather than hormones. Growth rate is decreased after the age of 35 in white. Most of them regress in onset of menopause. Rapid uterine fibroid grows in perimenopausal age almost never indicate. This is important for us. Sarcomatous change means rapid growth doesn't indicate sarcomatous. Okay. Sarcomatous change is very rare, less than 5%. Women with pre-existing fibroid may develop pain and bleeding in the postmenopausal age, as the fibroid might have gone under sarcomatous change. So postmenopausal women, if she is having pain, bleeding, we should look for whether she is having any fibroid change in sarcoma or any suppose senile vaginitis is also there, tuberculous lesions are also there, then malignancy of cervix, so rule out properly. Fibroid may become calcified in menopausal women. Fibroid may also develop degenerative changes. 2 to 3 we have already seen. Now this is the list of degenerative changes. Subserous fibroid may become sessile, pedunculated, or they may be torsion. There is a blood vessel over the fibroid of subserous. Sometimes subperitoneal vein may rupture and this may cause excessive bleeding. So subperitoneal hemorrhages are common in this kind of fibromyalgia. So she may give you the symptom of acute abdominal pain. The subserous may become wandering or parasitic fibroid as they get attached to another organ leaving the uterus itself. Then hyalinization and fatty degeneration. This is a lime deposition in cases of large tumors which are coming from vascular vessels. Red degeneration, it is again aseptic necrobiosis seen in pregnancy and purpurium period. Then cystic degeneration, it is the hyalinization of the areas. Now cystic degeneration occurs in cases, it is due to liquefaction or necrosed area in tumor. Calcification, phosphates and carbonates of lime may deposit in the periphery along the vessels. Then infections, after calcification, hemorrhage, torsion seen in subperitoneal hemorrhage. Sarcomatous change, very rare. Infections, ulcerations of pedunculate fibroids. It is associated with endometrial cancer or endometriosis of follicular enlargement of the ovary. Inversion is common in submucous fibroid when it is inverted from the fundus surface. So these are all the secondary changes. We should always look for And any discharge. Women may also come with any leukorrhea, which I have missed, I think, in presentation due to this secondary changes in the fibromyoma. See, this is a red degeneration showing in the tumor in pregnancy, and this is the calcification. We call it as a womb stone. This is seen in the imaging modalities. This is the sarcomatous change. Now coming to the diagnosis, per abdomen, bimanual examination are important if you want to diagnose. First of all, take proper history, do the proper clinical and pelvic examination, USG, IVP, these are the basic modalities to rule out. Here we will see one by one. Fibroid with uterus larger than 12 to 14 weeks of gestation are well palpable per abdomen. These are enlarged, may be big as term pregnancy. And surface of uterus may be felt as a nodular, bossed or firm. But we can differentiate it by having no Braxton Hicks contraction as we see in pregnancy. So we can properly palpate the abnormality of the fetal part, but presence of nodularity and enlargement of the tumor, as well as we will not find any fetal heart sound or fetal parts. So this is how we will differentiate whether it is a tumor or it is a early trimester, first trimester pregnancy. Then pelvic examination, we may find enlarged uterus due to fibroid is of variable size, again irregular surface and nodes. Associated cystic enlargement of the ovary may be noted through posterolateral fornix. Then uterus is firm, non-tender, may be mobile, up and down, side to side, till it incarcerates in pelvis. Enlarged uterus and cervix move together. So this is the bimanual examination per abdomen and local examination through the vulva, vagina, cervix. The nodularity can be felt easily. Now, another important role is played by imaging modalities. Pelvic sonography is the most readily available and least costly to differentiate fibroids from the other pelvic pathology. It is reliable for evaluation of uterus, less than 375 cc volume and 3 to 4 or fewer fibroids. Pelvic sonography, it can be also done in cases of preoperative cases. USG fibroid with other pathogenesis are diagnosed, but in postmenopausal also it is important to see the fibroid follow-ups, whether it is growing, because we have to observe the asymptomatic cases also once they are detected for fibromyoma. So sonography is of utmost importance. Here I would like to elaborate about hysterosalpingography also. This HSG is done in cases of infertility too. This will give you idea about the cavity of the uterus. So here we can diagnose again about submucous fibromyoma and we can check the patency of the tube if she is having associated infertility. Then dilatation and curettage is other important modality to rule out the endometrial cancer. If we dilate and curate the endometrium, histopathology report will give you any associated comorbidities. Hysteroscopy, laparoscopy can be implied if polyp is to be excised, pedunculated conditions, or to find out any PID or endometriosis. X-rays can be done to know the calcification stages. MRI is very accurate to know simultaneous if there is adenomyosis or sarcomatous change. IVP is done in cases of large tumor. IVP is intravenous pyelography to identify the pelvic position of urethra so that further pathology is understood. Coming to the differential diagnosis, every time we have to differentiate whether it is a tumor or so many list of long pathology. Basic is, first is rule out the obstetric condition, one is pregnancy, another is full bladder condition. Full bladder is easily, if she is asked to void the urine, okay, it will not no more be there in sonography. Pregnancy, we have already discussed the size of 12 weeks of pregnancy, then urine pregnancy test negative, absence of fetal heart sound. We can easily differentiate between pregnancy, pregnancy complications or fibroid with pregnancy and no pregnancy, only fibroid. Collection of blood or pus in the uterus can be diagnosed. More or less they are having same symptom with fibroid, but definitely pelvic sonography will guide you in that line. Again, infection will give rise to fever, but in fibroid, there may not be any kind of fever presentation. Adenomyosis More or less symptoms are same with fibroid, but sonography will guide, DNC will explain. The two cornua in the uterus, we call it as a bicornuate uterus. Seems like something tumor, two cornua as a one is the tumor, or, but actually and sonography pick it up. Then teomas, lateral fornix, we will get this mass, but it is usually fixed, tender, distorted tube, can be easily understood. Chronic ectopic pregnancy also have a symptom similar with the fibromyoma. Again, urine pregnancy test will be weakly positive and another symptoms will rule out in sonography. Similarly, for pelvic endometriosis, ovarian endometriosis, we call it as a chocolate cyst of ovary. Endometrial carcinoma, uterine sarcoma may also give the symptom of fibroid like excessive bleeding, debility, pain, but this can be ruled out again by further investigations. Similarly, ovarian neoplasm and pelvic kidney. This is a congenital anomaly. This kidney, if we find it is absent in the posterior abdominal wall and if it is present in the, it is absent there, seen most of the time behind the uterus. Uterus may hide it, but by proper imaging techniques, we will come to know that this is a pelvic kidney and not the uterine fibromyoma. So this is very important clinically to rule out all the differential conditions. Now treatment. If woman is asymptomatic, then watchful waiting means we have to observe the woman only. 6 monthly follow-up is advised because observation is very important in asymptomatic cases. If she develops any symptom, then we have to treat her accordingly. Then if medical treatment is to be given, and this is a light treatment, they give NSAIDs, they give GnRH agonist. This GnRH will decrease the secretions of hormone. It is found that after GnRH therapy, tumor is shrinked. So shrinkage has occurred, so this is a useful modality. Otherwise, any medical treatment, if it is helping, it is well and good. But if it is not helping, then one has to go for surgery. Options for surgical treatments are myomectomy, which can be done through laparotomy, means opening of abdomen, and laparoscopy. It is a laparoscopic removal of the mass. This is advised in those women who want the fertility retained. She wants to go into conservative line of treatment, only removal of mass, or young age of the woman like adults and girls also, myomectomy can be done. Then hormonal shrinkage, I have already discussed. Uterine embolization is also one of the modality which occludes the circulation supply. Myomectomy through the hysteroscopy. After the hysteroscopy, one should know the proper site and all, it is performed. Then cesarean section and concurrent myomectomy is done occasionally with the delivery process. Uterine artery embolization, here the catheter is passed for this condition. And MRI guided endometrial ablations are also advised, again in those who want to retain their fertility function. If this is not helping, if woman has completed her complete family, if she is above the age of 40, 45 and getting very severe symptoms, then total hysterectomy is advised. Here hysterectomy is done